Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the right time. My name is Bomani Jones. Welcome. All right, man. The NBA playoffs are here. We'll get you guys set up on what's going on in the East. We'll get you set up on what's going on in the West and what's not going on in the West, which is Kawhi Leonard playing basketball. And Adidas thinks they're fooling me with this we would sign Colin Kaepernick thing, but I'll explain to you a little better why it is that I believe that they are trying to trick us and hustling backwards at the same damn time. Let's get this thing started. The Cavs have not played since Sunday, but LeBron plays for the Cavs. So we're going to start with this right here. I actually had somebody, me and Pablo went and had to do some corporate stuff the other day. And a dude walked up to us and was like, hey, man, why you guys always talk about LeBron so much? I was like, yo, homie, I thought you worked in sales. I thought that we was all out here trying to get this money. I had no idea that this dude would be in here like, hey, man, how come y'all don't want to get money? Y'all want to get money. I don't want to get money. I thought he wanted to get money. But anyway, Cavs got smoked on Sunday. Full on beat them down in the course of their game against the Pacers. Now, one thing I do love about the NBA playoffs is every year the playoffs come around and every year we pretend like we have never watched a playoff series before. Team loses the first game. Oh, man, I think they're in trouble. Like, I feel like we forget that all these games count the same, right? And they do. All the games count the same. And I make that point just because we get caught up in these things very, very early. And then we wind up with the assumption that somehow this first game matters more. Like, it doesn't count for one, right? All the Cavs got to do is go win one game in Indiana, and it's as though the first loss they had effectively never happened. Because then what we're going to talk about is momentum. I think the Cavs have the momentum, and for those of you who have followed me for an extended period of time, you know I believe that momentum is a fictional concept that has just been propagated to you by the people who call games and the coaches, and if you stop and think about it, it does not actually make any sense. But that's how this goes, and one thing I appreciate about LeBron James is that he also seems to believe that the concept is nonsense, or at the very least, that it is preposterous to think that he's really sweating a one-game deficit.
For me, it's an opportunity. I mean, game one, playing 44 minutes, I get the rest. I'll take the 2 days. I need the 2 days now. I didn't expect to play 44, but I get an opportunity to take the 2 days, me personally, and I hope the guys do the same thing to try to get their mind and their bodies refocused on what we need to do to win a ball game. But I've always stayed even keel with the postseason. I'm down 0-1 in the first round. I was down 3-1 in the finals. So I'm the last guy to ask about how you're going to feel the next couple of days.
Now, so here's the thing for me with the Cavs and how poorly they played in that game. If you play as poorly as the Cavs did, I'm not tripping on how the rest of the series is going to go. The reason I say that is it's an outlier performance. So the Cavs shot 38% from the floor, 23% from three, 60% from the line. That, to me, is an outlier performance. Like, that does not tell me that much about them because they are not going to play that poorly. They're not going to shoot 23% from three for the rest of the series. The Pacers shot 39% from three. How likely is that? That becomes its own question. But with the Cavs, no, I don't know how much I can take from game one to take to game two because a lot of those threes that the Cavs were missing were open. Like, if it felt like every time they were putting up a shot, there was a hand in their face, then I'd be saying, hey, man, Nate McMillan really cooked something up here. I'm going to have to see if the Cavs are going to be able to make an adjustment. The adjustment that they're going to need to make is the adjustment that comes from actually making your shots. Now, if there's another adjustment I do think that the Cavs can wind up making, hey, man, there can be no games where Kevin Love takes 8 shots. There can't be a single one where he takes 8 shots. And if there's it seems obvious this point I'm about to make, but I think that there's some nuance to it that gets lost here. Kevin Love was the number 3 option on this team for the previous 3 seasons. He is now the number 2 option on this team. The number 3 option every now and then can go up there and not put up any points. You may recall that game 7 where the Heat won the championship against the Spurs and Chris Bosh didn't have any points, 0, but was able to contribute in other ways. You can be like that when you're the number 3 guy. When you're the number 2, you kind of sort of have to show up all the time. And 17 rebounds, while it is very, strong and manly and everything like that, hey man, they need buckets. and you got to be the one to go out here and get buckets. And there was no one other than J.R. Smith that for the Cavs looked like, okay, it looks like I need to come out here and get some buckets. And the last thing you need is J.R. Smith feeling like he has to come out here and get buckets. You want J.R. Smith feeling like, I'll get these buckets if these buckets come to me. But you don't need J.R. Smith to look around and be like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I guess I will. Oh, no. You don't want that. You don't. But let's look at the rest of the Cavs roster, because one thing I think we're losing sight of, too, with the Cavs is they got a bunch of dudes who either, A, have never been here before, or B, when they were here, results a little spotty. All right? So Jeff Green. Jeff Green has kind of, sort of been here before, but never been in a situation where somebody had to count on him. And the Cavs kind of have to count on him, and he gave them a whopping 0 points. George Hill. George Hill has been here before, and I actually thought that George Hill would be relieved playing for the Cavs in the playoffs this round, because while he's playing for the Cavs, he can shake that memory that he has. He can shake that omnipresent fear that LeBron James is going to chase him down and block his layup on a breakaway. When that Pacers Heat thing was going on, think of how many times you saw George Hill thinking he got a breakaway, lemon booty, swallowed him up, just... And then next thing you know, LeBron taking that shot off the glass. That's multiple times. Like, that is the defining memory for me of George Hill. That and when he went all Cisco with his hair. You remember that? Where he decided he was going to go all blonde with it? Yeah. Is it Cisco, Dennis Rodman, whatever it was? Anyway, keep going down. Rodney Hood hasn't been here before. Hell, Rodney Hood didn't even get past the first round of the tournament when he was at Duke. Larry Nance, brand new. Chetty Osman, brand new. Tristan Thompson, whoo boy. I don't know, you guys have been reading the non-sports publications, but it appears that gentleman has a lot on his mind. Congratulations, by the way. You just had a baby. Jordan Clarkson, not been here before. Jose Calderon. I mean, he's been a lot of places because he's a million years old, but he's Jose Calderon. There's going to be some process, I would say, of adjustment that's going to come for some of these cats on the Cavs. And one thing they just got to do, man, they have to make shots. And I would not worry if I were the Cavs. And here's why. Yes, Victor Oladipo gotten a whole lot better. Victor Oladipo put up the 32. That's very, very impressive. Miles Turner, impressive young big man. He will become better. You want to talk about the rest of these cats on this squad? Like, you want to do that? Let's go ahead and do that. Thaddeus Young. I feel like Thaddeus Young has been the same player since he was a freshman at Georgia Tech. And I don't mean that in a bad way necessarily, but Thaddeus Young is one of those dudes who came out of college with, like, number one thing he's got going for him, NBA body, which lets you know that this Thaddeus Young that you see in the NBA was being guarded by 16-year-olds in high school, and it was probably unfair. This is not Boban Bogdanovic. This is Bojan. They're not the same dude. This is the cat that wears number 44 for the Pacers. And it was Ryan Jones, I believe, who said this on Twitter, who made me feel so much better. Dude, I kept thinking he was Austin Crocier or Crocier, however you say it. But every time I'd see this white dude out here running with 44, I'm like, damn, how old is Austin Crocier? He can't possibly still be in the league. No, it's Bogdanovic. Although he shot 5 for 17 and putting up 15 points, which, I mean, that could be Austin Crocier. I don't really know if there's terribly that much of a difference. Derek Collison. Still in the league. Trevor Booker out here hooping with that number 35 tattoo on his arm that he had at Clemson, but unfortunately Trevor Booker wears number 20. Sabonis, the younger Sabonis, he seemed to have the lemon booty. He did not appear to be fully prepared for what was going on here. Corey Joseph, I didn't know he was still in the league. He's playing for the Pacers. And then there is Lance Stevenson. And I'm trying to remember who I saw said this on Twitter, but they were right. One of the great subtexts, it might have been Ryan Jones again, one of the great subtexts of the NBA is Lance Stevenson being assured that he is the equal to LeBron James, and LeBron James being wholly and totally dismissive of this notion, offended by this idea that Lance Stevenson breathes the same air as him. And it's the thing you got to understand about the NBA, man. A whole lot of these cats that were like the super duper man in high school, they look at LeBron and they're like, I don't understand why it is that I can't be this. Need I remind you that Ricky Davis, who was on the Cavs when the Cavs drafted LeBron, was under the impression that they drafted LeBron so that they would have somebody to help Ricky lead the team. That's why he thought they took LeBron James, to help him. Ricky Davis was a dude, though. My brother said he saw Ricky Davis dunk on Brad Lohaus in a summer league game at the University of Iowa when Ricky Davis was 15 years old. Like, he was one of those guys. Lance Stevenson is basically that same guy. He was born ready. He was legendary young, and apparently he is still legendary in his own mind. Like, none of that has changed. But go up and down that roster. I don't feel like that roster is the one where I'm like, yeah, they're going to beat the team that has LeBron on it. No, they're not. They're not going to beat the team that has LeBron on it. I think we all have to feel pretty confident and say that that's just a wee bit preposterous. So until the Cavs are down 3 to whatever, and it's 2 minutes left, and they're down by 8, I still got the Cavs coming out of the East for the simple fact that they're the team that has LeBron on it. Nothing, I repeat, nothing about the first game of the series changed that for me. One thing I do think is funny, though, Victor Oladipo said that he had some level of motivation because Dan Gilbert has said about the Paul George trade that he thought that the Pacers could have done better. Because I think basically he was saying that he was willing to send Kyrie Irving over that way. But he thought that the Pacers could have done better in that trade. And Oladipo, he said he took that as some level of motivation. Well, I guess Victor Oladipo going to be motivated every day for the rest of his life. Because if tomorrow it pops up and they're like, hey, you want to trade Oladipo for Kyrie? Oladipo will be out there with them leprechauns. Just you watch. Sorry, homie. This is just kind of sort of how it goes. I guess you'll have to make some measure of peace with that fact. But while we're on Oladipo, I just do want to say this. Victor Oladipo was the number 2 pick in what is quite possibly the worst NBA draft ever. Like, it is possible that it will go down as the worst NBA draft ever. Let's remember, that's the draft where Anthony Bennett was the number 1 overall pick. Victor Oladipo was the number 2 pick. Otto Porter went number 3. Cody Zeller went 4th, guys. 4th in the draft, followed by the great Alex Lynn, followed by Nerlens Noel, followed by Ben McLemore, followed by Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, followed by Trey Burke. Do you realize that out of 9 picks, that's like 8 busts, basically? Like, Otto Porter got that check, but Otto Porter is not giving it to you like you thought you would with the number 3 pick. That's the draft that Oladipo was in, and that draft seems so awful. I called it the worst ever, except listen to who else is in that draft as you get farther down, and this is the new NBA where you can get guys later. C.J. McCollum went 10. Steven Adams went 12. Kelly Olynyk, who's kind of balling, went 13. Giannis Antetokounmpo went 15. Rudy Gobert went 27. Like, there are dudes in the draft way deeper than there have ever been before. And now finally, Victor Oladipo is living up to a standard that allows him to say that he's as good, maybe, as like the number 12 pick in the draft. Life is funny like that sometimes. Now we have last night's game. Did you guys watch that? Sixers, Heat. Sixers blew the Heat out the gym on Saturday. Now, to be fair, though, they blew the Heat out the gym in the second half. In the first half, that was a close one. And I am one of these people who has said that they believe that the Heat are going to win this series. I say I believe the Heat are going to win this series in part because I work in the broadcast media. Therefore, I need to give you something that'll catch your ear a little bit. But the other thing is, I do believe that there's something legitimate to the idea that the Sixers have a bunch of guys who haven't been there before. I also don't know when it is that Embiid is actually going to come back, and he's a little salty that he has not been back yet. And then, at some point, the fact that Ben Simmons can't shoot has to turn into an issue. It is going to turn into a thing, the fact that the dude can't shoot. Now, I think that he is as impressive and as incredible as everybody else believes that he is. I love to watch him play. All of those things. However, the dude that's going to have the ball the most cannot shoot. No one else on the Sixers can really get his own shot. Hey, maybe you could say that Sarge can get his own shot. Is that the guy that you're going to go with? But I don't feel like they have anybody else who can get their own shot. So what the Sixers have is a dude that's going to be fairly ball dominant. Now, he's going to get the ball to other people, but he's still going to be fairly ball dominant, and he can't shoot. Now, what the move has been that a lot of other people have used is play off Simmons. Play off him since he can't shoot. The problem is he's not Russell Westbrook. So you can say Russell Westbrook can't shoot. You play off Russell Westbrook, and Russ is just going to keep shooting because Russ believes you got to keep him honest. Simmons is like, you're not going to make me shoot. Like, I understand that I cannot shoot. Do you know how many three-pointers Ben Simmons attempted in college? 3. That's how many three-pointers he put up for the entirety of his college season. 3. He put up 11 this year in the NBA, which, by the way, is like not the same rate as he put up in college, but about roughly per game, like not terribly different. So what the Heat did last night was they gave him a whole lot of Justice Winslow. And I think that they gave him a lot of Justice Winslow for two reasons. One, obviously, Justice Winslow is a long, athletic sort of defender, right? Like, this is the reason why you draft Justice Winslow, is that he's a guy that you think can do something like this. The other reason I think they put Justice Winslow on him, I don't know how much you remember about Justice Winslow playing at Duke, and I'm going to be honest with you, I ain't been paying that much attention to what he's done in Miami. But if you remember Justice Winslow, H-Town, at Duke, he might, quote unquote, accidentally kick you in the testicles. It's a very, very Dookie sort of game. He does. And if he looked a little bit different, you would associate him more with all the things that many of you hate about Duke. But he doesn't look that way, therefore you don't view him as such. But he'll get under your skin. He'll play a little bit dirty. And Ben Simmons is a guy that, I'm not sure if you noticed, but the rest of the cats in the league don't seem to like him very much. He's a bit of a talker. Redick said that he has like a quiet confidence. And I'm like, gee, how do you define quiet? Because I hear it all the way from over here. Nah, Winslow's there to get in his chest. That's it. Don't worry about doing anything else in this game. Just go out here and get in his chest. So they've got the guy that can get up in Simmons' face and then make it difficult for him to make those passes that pick people apart. All right, so once he makes it difficult, who's getting his own shot? Who on this roster is going out here and getting his own shot? They don't have anybody that can do that. I believe that the Heat have the better coach in this series. And if Brett Brown makes the adjustment to figure out what to do to make it easier for Simmons, Spo gonna be the one to go out here and figure it out with somebody else. That's how I see this. I still think they're going to win this series. That being said, would you be surprised if Ben Simmons came out here and had like 27, 17, and 17? Because I would not be surprised if Ben Simmons put up 27, 17, and 17. The Sixers had the best player in this series. The Sixers probably have the second best player in this series if he is able to play. And right now he's a little bit salty about the fact that he can't play. Gabe, did you see that? That Embiid said that he's effing sick and tired of being babied?
Yeah, and it's a little bit different this time too, because before he was crying about not being able to play because the Sixers were being careful, about his knee and other ailments, but now it's about his face.
Yeah, and you're in the concussion protocol. They got rules, man. They can't just throw you out there off the concussion protocol. That they are not allowed to do, Joel, but he wants to play. And I guess that's the thing that you would want. You'd want him to be out there, and you want a guy that says that he is ready to play.
And it's almost as if the way that he's saying it, they don't want him out there. I mean, they would have you out there if you were ready.
Right. He's like, it's the playoffs. Why would we ever want our best player on the floor? Like, do you realize, Embiid, you might be the only player in the NBA that anybody is conscientious about making sure before they come back to get into the playoffs. Trust me, they are more than willing to put you out here and endanger your health for team success. However, they got rules. I imagine he'll play in Game 3, though. That is my guess. And that's what is going to get fun for the Heat, because Joel Embiid and Rudy Gobert are the two most impactful defensive players in the NBA. Like, that's the thing about Embiid I think that gets lost in this is you go look at those advanced numbers, he holds it down in the middle. Why? Because he's an old school big man who can also play out there when you go small because he is that athletic. It's like Akeem Olajuwon if Akeem Olajuwon had an entirely different body type. Right? Like, yeah, there are similarities to his game with Olajuwon, but like, if you dropped Olajuwon off in modern times and gave him modern training techniques and everything else, you couldn't make Olajuwon as big as Embiid is. Embiid is 7'2", 285 pounds or something in that ballpark. You can't make that guy as big as Joel Embiid is. But the idea that Embiid can be as quick as athletic as Olajuwon, that's nuts. Trust me, buddy. They'll get you out here to play as soon as they can. But we know what happened last night in last night's game. We know what happened. Gabe, I don't think you've ever heard me talk so much about this, but do you enjoy playing spades? Have you ever been involved in playing spades?
I have not.
You have not played spades. Okay, but you played, just like, I guess hearts is a bad example because you don't want to win books, but games where you throw out the cards and you try to get the book and go around the table.
I'm aware of all such games, but I'm just not a card player.
Yeah, I
can't play for nothing.
But I want you to understand the idea of Dwyane Wade walking these jacks. That's what he does. He walks jacks. And what we mean by walking jacks is you're not supposed to be able to play a jack and win the hand. It's too low of a card. Somebody should have a queen or whatever it is. But if you can make a jack walk, you a bad man at playing this game. And all D Wade does is walk jacks, man. He just throws his card out there. You're like, how did you win the book with the queen? The queen is never supposed to win. D Wade been walking these jacks for all these years, and now he's at an age where basically all he's got is jacks to walk. He used to have big jokers because he'd come up there and dunk on you and stuff like that, right? He doesn't have the big joker in his hand anymore. He doesn't even have the red deuce in his hand anymore. He's only got to work with the cards that he was given that nobody else could ever count. But D Wade's like, nah, I think I can. No card in his hand over a king. I think I got 5 books. He went out there, cranked out 5 books on him. D-Wade put up 28 points and had a plus 16 out there. In a way, by the way, where LeBron's got to be like, I told y'all not to let him go. Like, how bad? As much as we looked at Dwyane when he was playing with Cleveland and he looked like he was done and he didn't have anything to provide, how badly could the Cavs have used Dwyane Wade? At least the Dwyane Wade that they got last night. Because I imagine Dwyane Wade went straight to that cold tub immediately after the game, and he's going to be walking around here looking like somebody's granddaddy after having to put up all like 26 minutes, 28 points. Oh, man. And I wouldn't be surprised if D-Wade can't play in Game 3. DNP, osteoarthritis. Wouldn't shock me. Wouldn't shock me. He's at that place in his career. Here's D-Wade talking about it.
I definitely, it's a great feeling, you know, when you go into that bag, especially when you're on the road, you know, when you got people like Kevin Hart talking on the sideline, when you got the crowd, you know, going through and saying all the things they're saying. I heard a lot of things tonight, and it's all just used as motivation. And to be able to hush a whole crowd, that's a great feeling. That's a feeling that I hope my son feels one day.
He went straight at Kevin Hart. He did not like hearing it from Kevin Hart because nobody wants to be sassed by a short person. Nobody, right? I wish you would be 5'3" out here talking crazy to me while I play basketball. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm honestly surprised they let Kevin Hart sit that close to the crowd. Like, I just, you know, and I understand this, man. We talked about this before. It's unfortunate for the short man. Somebody once called me and told me that being short is a constant fight for credibility. And it is that. There's something to that. But D-Wade really did not appreciate being sassed by the Oompa Loompa. And I don't think I would either. Although generally, if like somebody Kevin Hart size is sassing you, it's also a teenager. And I damn well ain't tolerating getting sassed by no teenagers. That's not happening. Then, by the way, did you see that, Gabby sent the tweet saying that she had something for him when he came home?
Oh, yeah.
Have we ever been more intimately acquainted with the sex life of an NBA star in the way that we are with Dwyane and Gabby?
I don't think so. I don't think so, because we're acutely aware of Gabrielle Union and her tweets, so we're seeing a whole new side to this relationship.
Well, there's also an interesting dynamic, which is because Gabby has been pretty forthright about these sorts of things, right? She's like, I'm a grown woman, I get to be grown, I'm going to be grown. And she's a very attractive woman and has been known for a long time as being a very attractive woman. And what I noticed in this is it's a totally different dynamic when you have like the very, very attractive woman on television that you know that you're familiar with or whatever it is. And she tells you about things that she does in bed. And you're like, oh, snap. Yeah. Some of the shy goes off when you know who the other person is. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, but y'all married. And that's totally not fair. It's totally not. But then it goes from, yo, man, you know what Gabby says she be doing? It goes from that to, yo, you know what D-Wade be doing? What? And then she's out there like, don't worry, I got something for you at home. You could have sent me a text message. You ain't have to tell the rest of them. Oh, well, I'm just saying this. D-Wade living better than a whole lot of us, whether we know about it or not. All right, we are in the Western Conference playoffs, which, gotta say, as much as we've had all this time that we've seen the West as being so much better than the East, the West playoffs really aren't as interesting. I guess we got, what do you call himself, Playoff P? Paul George decided to call himself Playoff P, as if Paul George is good enough to give himself a nickname, but he has decided that he is Playoff P. But then he went up and put up 38, which, I mean, you don't get to call yourself Playoff P, but at least you acted like you were good enough to give yourself your own nickname. That was crucial, so I guess that was fairly interesting. But Spurs Warriors, I watched that last night. That game was actually a bit more compelling and competitive than I expected it to be. But one thing I think we're losing sight of when it comes to the Spurs and the Warriors right now, Spurs can't stay in the gym with the Warriors, and the Warriors don't have Steph. Like, this is a decimated version of the Warriors. This is the Warriors without their most important player, though maybe not their best player, but certainly their most important player. Without him, they're still out here blowing their doors off. Still there. Popovich got to come out here after the game answering questions about Kawhi Leonard. He's like, when Kawhi and his group say he's coming back, he's coming back. His pop's like, yo, man, I don't know. He's like, don't you think that if I could get him back here, he would be back here? He has no idea, and it sounds like they don't get to talk to Kawhi. Like, it sounds like all they're doing is talking to a middleman. Although, while they didn't talk to Kawhi, I got some Kawhi sound right here. Here's Kawhi on the whole situation. Oh, man, don't talk over Kawhi. Kawhi wasn't finished. Keep going, Kawhi. Oh, I got you. Yeah, so, we got Kawhi there. But listen to this. Brian Windhorst of ESPN was talking about a way in which Kawhi's situation and LeBron's situation are somewhat connected.
And I also want to point something else out. As you think about what could happen with Kawhi, LeBron doesn't have to be a free agent this season. That's people forget that. LeBron has the Chris Paul option in his contract. LeBron can force a trade to somewhere. So a team that even is full right now, you say, well, they don't have cap space. If they could figure out a way to trade for Kawhi, they could force their way. And the reason that Kawhi has power about this is he's only got 1 year left on his contract. He doesn't have 4 years left. So if he goes to the Spurs and says, if you're going to trade me, I'm not going to sign an extension there. You can't trade me to Toronto. I'm not going to sign an extension there. You can't trade me to Milwaukee. He's going to say, I want to be traded to this team.
Wait, are you saying Kawhi and LeBron want to play together? I don't understand. Explain that to me.
Well, I'm going to tell you it this way. If the Cavs get knocked out before the finals and LeBron has 6 weeks to think about things and 6 weeks to get in touch with Kawhi, things could get a little crazy. Just think about Philadelphia, for example. I can construct you a way that Philadelphia could trade for Kawhi Leonard and sign LeBron.
Ooh, that would be quite a lot. You know what's funny about the Sixers with that process, though? There are plenty of Sixers fans who will tell you we don't want either one of them because we got our guys, because our process. No. Your process is hoping for this. The process is hoping to get you guys that you hope could become as good as LeBron and Kawhi Leonard. You get the actual fully realized version of those dudes, you take them. You find a way to do this. But you notice that game where Brian said that LeBron could call Kawhi Leonard and things could get interesting. Your friendly reminder that LeBron pulls all the strings. Can you imagine just no one man should have all that power? This dude runs the league. Imagine he calls Kawhi. He's like, hey, Kawhi, here's an idea I got about how it is that we can get to the Sixers. And then Kawhi says back to him. And then LeBron is like, all right, I don't mean to interrupt you, but this is what I was thinking. Then Kawhi's like, LeBron's like, hey, man, stop, man. Stop. Don't look at me like that. All right. So anyway, we can go from there. Now imagine being the Spurs, right? Because the Spurs are a place where they can sign free agents if they're old. No state tax will give you a chance at a championship, like all that stuff. But ain't nobody trying to spend the best years of their life in San Antonio. That's just not really how it works. They are so on the hook here because they thought they'd found new Tim Duncan. They thought they'd found the new quiet superstar who would buy into how they did things down there and everything else. They thought they had it. And then Kawhi looked at them and said, now look at the whole situation. That whole thing is busted up and broken. And that roster that the Spurs have, they do not have players, man. Like, they just don't have the manpower. LaMarcus Aldridge is a cool player to have. Maybe even a cool player to have is your number one. But who's of the guys they got on the floor right now? Who's number two? Rudy Gay? Kyle Anderson? Who, by the way, speaking of walking jacks, his whole existence is walking jacks. Very, very slowly. But look at this whole roster. They don't have any bodies whatsoever. If they trade Kawhi, they're not getting back a player as good as Kawhi. So where's this thing going for them? Because as good a coach as Popovich has been, even Popovich will tell you, the best thing he did as a coach was put Tim Duncan out there. Ain't no Tim Duncan on this team right now. Good luck with that, fellas. Adidas try to pee on my head and tell me it's raining. So there was a summit of sorts, a question and answer session where a gentleman by the name of Mark King, he's the president of athletic apparel at Adidas, and he said that he doesn't want to give the impression that he's, quote, taking advantage of this noise or interest that he had generated, he said. But if Colin Kaepernick were to sign with an NFL team, he says that Adidas would then want to sign him. Now, the problem that he has in making this statement is, as my buddy David Dennis made this point and others did, what team Kanye West play for? Oh, that's right. Kanye West doesn't play for a team. What team Pusha T play for? Pusha T doesn't play for a team. You don't have to have Colin Kaepernick on a team in order for you to sign him to a deal. You don't have to do that. You could go sign him to a deal right now. You could go put him in commercials right now. You have no hold up on this. You don't have to wait on this other side. Now, here's more that King said. He said, we love athletes that have a platform to make the world a better place. If they're an activist in a way that brings attention to something that moves the world forward, even if there's controversy at that moment, we're really interested in those athletes because I think it represents the world today. Now, I think one that is kind of almost a dig at Nike, where Nike used to be the people who would say something like that, and Adidas is clearly trying to put themselves in a forward-thinking space where like creators are their emphasis in the people that they're bringing in. It's not just being athletes. Like I went and did the whole tour of the Adidas stuff while I was there in LA, and they really want to see themselves as like this creative company where whatever your vision is, Adidas will create it, as opposed to just kind of boxing you into whatever it is that the company itself feels like it's doing. But he falls in line with the dude with the Kansas City Chiefs before, who talked about when they had Smith and Mahomes. He's like, oh, we'd love to bring Kaepernick in, except, you know, we've got Alex here, and that's a little bit of a tricky situation. All the people that would say how they would love to sign Colin Kaepernick all got an excuse as to why it is they would do it, except for, right? It's all I would, comma, but. I mean, yeah, that would be a great idea, except for. And that's the same thing that Adidas is out here doing right now. And so my thing on this is, if you're dealing with Kaepernick or anything else, is don't lie. Don't lie. At once people feel so steadfast about the idea of keeping Kaepernick out. On the other hand, no one seems to really want to be bold enough to be in a position of power to say, yeah, well, that's what this is going on. No one has the ability. No one seems to have the courage about them to say that they're scared. Or at the very least, that's what they don't have, is the courage to say that they are scared. But don't waste anybody's time with I would, except when the except does not apply to you. You're telling me right now that if Adidas didn't come out here and say, hey, we're going to sign Colin Kaepernick, and if they had some Air Kaepernicks out here in these stores, you're telling me they wouldn't fly off the shelves? You know, I know they would fly off the shelves because there were people, not that many obviously, but there were people who went out here and bought those Air Lonzo balls, the big baller brand shoes that cost like $500 strictly in the name of principle. They thought they liked what it was that LeVar was doing, and so they wanted to throw a little bread his way. That's for $500 shoes for a dude that's 19 years old. Kaepernick is more famous at this point and a bigger star than Lonzo Ball or damn near anybody else at this point. There are very few people as visible as Kaepernick is. You telling me that if they came up with a dope shoe for Kaepernick or a dope ad campaign for Kaepernick or aligned their brand publicly with the causes that Kaepernick is talking about, that there wouldn't be a long line of people running in there to get their stuff? You telling me it wouldn't happen? It would happen. But in the end, is Adidas afraid of the same thing that everybody else is afraid of? Kaepernick ain't gonna cost the NFL any money. He's not. You see people talk about the ratings being up in the NBA with a wokeified league or however it is that you want to call it. It's not affecting money in that sort of way. But Kaepernick's not going to, like, what person do they have that is a endorser that's going to walk away because Kaepernick shows up? They don't have that. Who's going to, like, throw Adidas out of their store because they're on board with Kaepernick? That's not going to happen. That money is right there in front of them. That visibility is right there in front of them. And I don't believe that they want it. I simply don't. I don't believe they want whatever the controversy is that will come, not so much public controversy or like public rancor or anything like that, but the discussions among the rich people of the world about how they feel about putting this out front. Is Adidas willing to be the company to say that they are behind somebody whose cause is so decidedly pro-black? Are they the ones who are willing to do that? All I can guess from what they've said here is, not really, because they say the circumstance under which they'll sign Colin Kaepernick to an endorsement deal is a circumstance that we all know is not going to happen. Right? Again, it would be different if the yeah, but on Kaepernick was a plausible scenario. Do you think it's a plausible scenario at this point that Kaepernick plays in the NFL again? Because I don't. They basically said, well, look, Colin comes out here and grows a third arm. We'd love to have him. 3 arms, 3 stripes. It all works together. He's not going to grow a third arm. He's not going to play in the NFL. So you might as well have kept that to yourself.
We know you can't be on top of all the news and information of the day. No need for the social media feeds. We got you. Now, if you haven't heard.
All right, Bomani, our first story of the week comes from the music industry.
Hi, I'm Ella Hayazadi, pop culture writer with The Washington Post, and I wrote about Beyonce's Saturday performance at Coachella, where she made history as the first black woman to headline the music festival. And she most certainly did not phone it in. Her HBCU-themed show included more than 100 dancers and musicians. She had a marching band, majorettes, step dancing, her own Greek letters. She essentially created her own HBCU, the University of Beyonce, and she did it at Coachella, known more for a boho aesthetic vibe. The stereotypical Coachella attendee is a drunk white hipster wearing glitter and a Native American headdress. And just the night before, Vince Staples called the main stage the white people stage. That's the same stage that Beyonce sang Lift Every Voice and Sing. But thanks to the Coachella live stream, her show reached a far wider audience and it became a major cultural moment. Beyonce was supposed to perform last year, but she had to back out because she was pregnant with twins. During this show, she said that she had spent that time dreaming of something big and that this show was bigger than anything she could have hoped. And her hard work showed in the fierceness of her dancing, the control of her vocals, and really in the creativity and boldness of everything she brought to the least likely of places.
All right, so there are two things here with this Beyonce show, right? One of them is just straight out execution. Just about every artist that I know who does stage shows and stuff like that, they looked at that show and they just could not believe that she managed to pull it off. That's before we get to what was conceived of in the first place. The sheer execution of what it is that she had there was monster. But then the next level of it, and this is the thing with Beyonce that I think the mainstream press struggles to understand. She has stopped caring if the mainstream gets what it is that she does. Like, she got to the height of her success and just said, I'm going to make this all as black as possible. That's her and her sister, right? Her sister put out that Seat at the Table record. Ooh, it's black. It's real black. That Lemonade record. Ooh, it's black. It's real black. In fact, the last 10 years of Beyonce's music. Ooh, it's black. It's real black. Like, this is, people talk about Beyonce as simply being a pop star. You clearly aren't listening to this music. Beyonce's music is as much Houston and New Orleans rap as it is anything else. And so she takes that show to Coachella with a HBCU marching band with all that bounce and that screw and everything else. And she doesn't care if the people at Coachella get it. She doesn't care. This is what I do, except it's so dope that it doesn't matter if they get it. And that's the next level of being a star, which is you present this and it's coded in a way for the people who are the closest to it to fully be able to appreciate it. But if you don't, you can still vibe with it. And that's what she managed to do. She got up there and sang, lift every voice and sang. How many people you think were in the front row hitting Shazam? Like, damn, I got to download that when I get home. By the way, in a similar vein of Beyonce, Kendrick Lamar, who has put out a couple of super duper black records that the mainstream loves for reasons I don't fully understand, that dude just won a Pulitzer Prize. Do you realize how crazy it is that it is easier for a rapper to win a Pulitzer Prize than Album of the Year at the Grammys? Just a thought.
All right, Bomani, our second story of the day comes from the country at large.
Hi, I'm Jenny Gathright from NPR News. A video of the arrest of two black men in a Philadelphia Starbucks last week has received over 10 million views on Twitter, and it has prompted days of protests outside the store where it happened. Philadelphia's police commissioner, Richard Ross, said police got a 911 call at 4:40 p.m. last Thursday from two Starbucks employees, saying two men were causing a disturbance. At least one of the men had asked to use the restroom, but was told he couldn't because he hadn't bought anything. And the men allegedly refused to leave after employees asked them to. Ross said police arrived and asked the men to leave 3 times before taking them into custody. The attorney for the two men says they were at Starbucks for a business meeting and were waiting on a third person. The lawyer received word that they were going to be released at 12:30 a.m. on Friday morning, nearly 8 hours after the initial 911 call. Ross said he believed the officers, quote, did absolutely nothing wrong. The police department's internal affairs unit is looking into the incident. Philly's Mayor Jim Kenney also responded on Saturday, saying he was heartbroken to see his city in the headlines for this. He said he'd reached out to Starbucks directly and asked his own Commission on Human Relations to look into whether implicit bias training should be required for Starbucks employees. Starbucks apologized in a tweet on Saturday, and CEO Kevin Johnson put out a longer statement on Sunday saying he wanted to apologize to the two men in person.
Nah, they talked about that implicit bias training. I'm like, no. Y'all don't really need that. I mean, maybe that would be helpful. Just stop calling the police over nonsense. Because what I do feel like happened in this case that the manager of the Starbucks isn't thinking about here. The Starbucks put out a statement where they were like, well, we really didn't want anybody to get arrested. Hey, man, arrest was not worst case scenario under those circumstances. You can't go calling the police willy-nilly. I don't know if you've watched the news, but look, man, they just trying to get home. That's all they trying to do. They just trying to get home. And they'll do a lot to make sure that they do, in fact, get home. Please, please, please be careful about calling the police if you don't really need to call the police. And that was the thing to me when they talked about implicit bias training. No, you need to establish some sort of protocol that says don't call the police over nonsense. Like, this is not something for which you call the cops. When the police officer said the cops didn't do anything wrong, I got where he was coming from on that, because their real problem is stop calling us because you're scared of black people. Like, that's basically what they're saying. All them dudes that rolled up there, you think they didn't have something better that they could have been doing than rolling up in that Starbucks? I tell you who didn't have something better to do than roll up in Starbucks, though. All those people that was protesting the last couple of days. Gabe, did you see them run up in that Starbucks?
I did.
It's the funniest thing I have ever seen. Like, don't get me wrong, this cause and what happened is, I get frustrated. This idea I got to have an explanation for why I am anywhere I'm going to be. Yeah, I get that. However, there was nothing funny in this world than seeing them dudes hold a sign that said "End, Stop, and Frisk" in front of a sign that said "Pick the roast you love the most." Like, you imagine being somebody who showed up at work at that Starbucks that day, and this is what you walked into, and you're like, bro, I wasn't even working on Saturday. I was not at all involved in this. I saw a picture where a dude had a bullhorn up on this dude named Zach, and Zach was just standing there stone faced, and I was Team Zach in that moment, because Zach is like, look, man, I understand y'all got a lot to say, but you're gonna get that bullhorn out of my face. Like that's one step. I am not the manager here. I just work here. Look at my shirt. Does my shirt look like I have any power? You see this name tag? I wouldn't tell you my name if I ran anything around here. Imagine that. All these people thinking they just about to go to Starbucks, and instead they get a rally that they were not expecting. So yes, I understand why people were taking this opportunity to have their cause be heard, and I don't judge them for it. But I spent yesterday dying laughing just at the thought of being a Starbucks employee, and all of a sudden somebody's in here handing you literature and self-published books about things that you had never considered in your life.
Our third story of the day comes from the world of psychology.
My name is David Costanza, and I'm a professor at the George Washington University. I recently wrote an article for Slate about the science of generations and whether generations exist. Short version, science does not support the idea of distinct generations. Stereotypes are well known. Boomers are materialistic. Xers are slackers. Millennials are narcissists. These stereotypes are commonly held, but in fact, they're explained by other causes. Perhaps the most common generational stereotype is that young people today are much more narcissistic than in the past. But the science does not support this. On average, young people today are no more narcissistic now than young people were 30 years ago. While they may be more narcissistic than 40 or 60-year-olds are today, that's because young people are pretty narcissistic regardless of when they are young. Another example, research shows that new recruits to the Army show more pride in their service than recruits did 15 to 20 years ago. Is this a generational difference? No. Overall, everyone in the Army now shows more pride than 20 years ago because of 9/11. The terrorist attack increased pride across the board. This doesn't have anything to do with generations. Why is this important? When people rely on flawed science and unsupported stereotypes, they make bad decisions, waste resources, and denigrate individuals who do not share the stereotypical characteristics. Generations and generational stereotypes are appealing to a lot of people, but despite their popularity, the science says that distinct generations simply aren't a thing.
Now, it is interesting that he says that about distinct generations, and I also think part of what's interesting here is none of us are going to allow him to take away our basis to slander these millennials. Like, I don't care what your science tells you, we are going to talk bad about them no matter what. I do think, though, it is interesting, this point that he makes, that this generation is now more narcissistic than previous generations. That sounds about right. What happens is we have more tools that allow you to broadcast your narcissism, because as much as the young kids are always putting something on the internet and taking selfies and everything else, I don't know the last time you followed somebody 35 years old, but they out here doing the same exact thing. The difference is we weren't raised with the tools to broadcast our narcissism. We are growing more comfortable with those tools, though those tools are not native to us. But no. We about the same. We just kick it a little bit different because we're getting used to having the ability to do this. But if you think grown-ups ain't out here about this selfie craze, you need to go date a couple of them.
Unblock me, Bo. You know Bomani Jones is not shy about blocking on Twitter. The Right Time team recognizes we all slip up, so Bo will give one lucky follower an opportunity to make amends. It's Unblock Me, Bo.
All right, Bomani, we got 3 individuals that we're going to give a shot at getting your timeline back. Each of them gave us their recollection of the events. Their side of the story, right? Mm-hmm. And we'll listen to each one of them, and then we'll give the best individual a chance to defend himself. Mm-hmm. All right, this is our first listener. His name is Rolf, at raw_12.
Hey, this is Ryan calling. Hopefully get unblocked by Bomani Jones. I know that you have a penchant for blocking people just so that you can have this nice little segment. But you blocked me for calling you old, and I'm 22. And you have to be 40-something, so there's no way that I should be blocked because of this. I love your podcast, man. Just unblock me so I can keep firing off reckless tweets at you. It's a good time. You clap back at me a little bit. I thought we had a nice tit for tat. My Twitter handle is @_raw_12, and my name is Rolf. So if you want to check out the tweets or whatever, if you remember, I even still have them saved on my phone, and I sent them to my friends because it was hilarious. So, yeah, hopefully you unblock me, man. Thanks.
Did this dude say I had to be 40-something?
Man, you old as hell. Completely unprompted.
That I would seem old because he was born in 1995.
You said you're 23 and can't grow facial hair, from which he immediately pivots to try to ask you a question about Marvin Lewis.
Yeah, that question right there tends to come from people I don't really like. But you hear what he said there? I'm 22. You've got to be 40. You stupid, lazy millennial. You couldn't even bother to Google how old I was before you called to beg to get unblocked? Really? I'm just asking you this, Rolf. Who else we got?
Our second is a @Colossal Castro. He goes by the name of Marty Bird. Here's what he had to say.
It's going on 2 years for me now since you blocked me, and I was hoping if I could get out the doghouse. The name on Twitter is Colossal Castro, and I believe 2 years ago the reason why I was blocked was because you were on assignment doing work over in Paris, and you had tweeted a phrase in French, and I basically quoted you with that phrase by saying trying to be that guy but not being that guy. And I basically quoted what you were saying and said, actually, this is how you want to say it in French. And you basically responded with, if you don't want to be that guy, then don't be that guy. And I've never seen none of your tweets again ever since. Hoping I can make amends and somehow get unblocked. You know, definitely miss seeing you on my timeline, man. It isn't the same, but we'll see what happens. Take care.
I was actually just about to repeat, if you didn't want to be that guy, don't be that guy. Apparently I'm consistent because I was going to say that thing there.
Well, that is what your response was. You said you are being that guy. You had said restaurant last night had Let's Work plan, and gotta say their musique du trap ain't bad. So he was trying to correct your French there, not to be that guy, but wouldn't it be musique de trap as opposed to musique du trap?
And then he got it. Yeah,
so he's trying not to be that guy, but he is that guy.
By the way, that French trap music was kind of banging. I was a little shocked. I was into Uber like, yo, man, they trapping everywhere. Okay, all right, so we'll consider Marty.
Our last character in this story is @VexedInTheCity. Goes by the name of Corey Richardson. Here's what he had to say.
Yo, this is Corey Richardson, Vexed in the City on Twitter. And you blocked me over the Morehouse-Clark basketball game. And then Morehouse and Clark both messed around and lost in the first round of the tournament. So go ahead and unblock me, Bo, because we both in the same boat now. All right, peace.
I did not block him behind the Morehouse-Clark basketball game. Now, for those of you who do not know, I am a graduate of Clark Atlanta University. Our chief rival is Morehouse College, which is across the way, which is a very prestigious all-male school, and they have a tendency to think they're better than other people as they would scream at us at basketball games. That's all right. That's okay. Y'all gonna work for us someday, and something tells me don't nobody work for this dude. But anyway, he sent me this and he says, FYI, Morehouse defeated Clark Atlanta in triple OT. As a Morehouse alum, I got to give Clark their props. They played a really close and competitive game for a women's college. And it was not about the game. It was that if you would think that calling my school a women's college is an insult, you are probably such an idiot that you're going to say something else that's going to wind up getting you blocked. So why would I wait? That's why I got him out of here. But you know what? Gabe, I believe our friend Corey is our winner for getting unblocked. And I'm going to tell you why he's our winner for getting unblocked. Because for all that talk, them cats from Morehouse talk, and what he had to say right there about how it's a women's college, you calling up here to beg me to let you back on my timeline. You going to put that on your resume? You going to tell them about that when you go back to the alma mater and y'all try to act like y'all better than somebody else? Bow down and tell me why I should unblock you. Because I don't even really feel like he told me why he should be unblocked. He's like, come on, man, I was just joking.
And that's the problem with these guys. Nobody quite said why they should be unblocked. They just tried to all explain, this is my recollection of the events.
Yes.
Which were slightly skewed in their point of view, you know.
Always
standard. Let's give Corey a call and see if he can defend himself properly.
Yes. Hey, Corey, it's Bomani. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you doing?
Good, man. They say you trying to get unblocked, man.
Hey, well, look, we are both HBCU alumni, not just HBCU alumni, but we both went to school at the AUC. Now, I was giving you a little bit of friendly ribbon, and all of a sudden, you go ahead and block your boy.
Oh, yeah.
I appreciate that. Why you do that?
I'll tell you why I did that, because I would think that a man of Morehouse College would be far too enlightened and intelligent to somehow believe that calling a school a women's college is an insult. I took that to mean that if you would say something that stupid and, by the way, disrespectful to your Spelman sisters that you claim to love so much, then I could never trust anything else that you would say to me. Now, you don't think it was a little bit stupid and whack of you to use women's college as an insult?
Well, a couple of things here.
Oh, no. I don't need no couple. Answer that one.
Okay. So, when we look at the overall makeup of Clark Atlanta University, it is an overwhelmingly female population, right? Brawley Hall is the only male dorm. Now, I was making the comment that it was good to see a school that has such a high population of women doing well in men's sports because of the fact that you all are recruiting great athletes.
Bruh. Who you think you fooling right now, man? Who you think you fooling right now? You know what you was doing. You think you fooling somebody with that, man?
Kinda.
Please apologize to your Spelman sisters for using women's college as an insult, and then we're all good.
All right, let me apologize to all my Spelman sisters for using the term women's college as an insult.
Now apologize to me.
Bomani, my apologies. I did not mean to offend you.
Oh, no. You didn't offend me. I wanted you to apologize for wasting my time with you saying something so offensive to them. Yeah, I was not. Why would I be offended by you saying that my school had a whole bunch of girls at it? That's the reason why I went there. But I appreciate you calling in, man. Thank you so much. You're going to get unblocked in just a second. You can tell all your friends.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem, man. You have a good one.
You too.
Yes. Oh, wow. Gabe, that made my day.
Wasn't ready to come off his statement that quick.
When you come to my town, bow down. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us here on The Right Time. We're doing the podcast 2 times a week now. My man Gabe Bassane is the producer. Thank you so much. Also, thanks to Elahe Izadi of The Washington Post with her discussion of the Beyonce Coachella performance. Check her article out on The Washington Post. Check out Professor David Costanza of the George Washington University. His article on generations is at slate.com. And also, Jeannie Gathright of NPR News. Check out her story about the Starbucks arrest. It's up on NPR.org. Remember, rate and review the podcast. Check us out at the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else you get podcasts. We like 5 stars. Give us 5 stars. Talk to you in a couple of days.
Thanks for checking out The Right Time with Bomani Jones podcast.
You can listen or subscribe on the ESPN app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts.
The Right Time
with Bomani Jones.